agents to the point that they don't want to do their jobs. He's spoken in broad terms about undercutting independent agencies, but never spelled out sweeping plans to defund the EPA and other federal agencies. Vought's plans track closely with a Trump campaign rhetoric about using the military against domestic protesters, what Trump has called the enemy within. Trump's desire to use the military on U.S. soil recently prompted his longest-serving chief of staff, John Kelly, to speak out, saying he prefers the dictator approach to government. Other policies mentioned by Vaught dovetail with Trump's plans, such as embracing a wartime footing on the southern border or rolling back trans rights. Agenda 47, the campaign's policy blueprint, calls for revoking President Joe Biden's order expanding gender-affirming care for trans people. Vaught uses even more extreme language, decrying, quote, transgender sewage that's being pumped into our schools and institutions, and referring to gender-affirming care as chemical castration. Close ally of the president claims that Trump is very supportive of what we do. Vaught is widely expected to take a high-level government role if Trump wins a second term. His name has even been mentioned as a potential White House chief of staff, a shadow government in waiting. Vaught laid out how his think tank is crafting the legal rationale for invoking the Insurrection Act, a law that gives the president broad power to use the military for domestic law enforcement. We want to be able to shut down the riots and not have the legal community or the defense community come in and say, that's an inappropriate use of what you're trying to do, he said. Vaught held up the summer 2020 unrest following George Floyd's murder as an example of when Trump ought to have had the ability to deploy the armed forces, but was stymied.
And in our time in the administration, we lived in this place most of the time in the Oval Office. We would put forward some policy solution, and then we'd have the lawyers come in and say, it's not legal, you can't do that. That would overturn this precedent. There's a state law against that. This how is where so much of things break down in our country, and that's really what we specialize the most in, and we're trying to build at the Center for Renewing America almost a shadow Office of Management and Budget. We're trying to build a shadow Office of Legal Counsel so that when a future president says, what legal authorities do I need to shut down the riots, we want to be able to shut down the riots and not have the legal community or the defense community to come in and say that's an inappropriate use of what you're trying to do.
Literally a deep state. Yeah, it's pretty crazy how much every accusation is a confession kind of deal. Yeah. Basically, they want to prepare all of the legal arguments that they'll need for doing the things that a fascist would do. They don't want Donald Trump to be like, you know, surprised by any legal troubles when he's in office. They want to have all their legal defenses prepared. Another priority, according to Vaught, was to defund certain independent federal agencies and demonize career civil servants, which include scientists and subject matter experts. Project 2025's plan to revive Schedule F, an attempt to make it easier to fire large swath of government workers who currently have civil service protections, aligns with Vaught's vision. We want the bureaucrats to be traumatically affected, he said. When they wake up in the morning, we want them to not go to work because they are increasingly viewed as the villains. Keep in mind, he's not even talking about leftists here. He's talking about career civil servants. He's talking about people who literally only want to do their job. Because to a fascist, like, there is no place for you in government unless you're a loyalist. There's no, and this is one of the reasons why fascist governments burn out, because they get rid of the bureaucrats. Because bureaucrats make modern civilizations run. Like that they're a necessary component of a functional state. And fascists are like, no, we only want loyalists. And this is one of the reasons why they always burn out. Like, how is this not treason? In any sane country, all of this would just get you jailed just at this point. How is this any different from the cops finding out that you have plans to shoot up a school? That's illegal, but like, oh, destroying the entire country is legal? This isn't even a component of the democratic process. This isn't even like annulling the will of the democratic majority or anything. This is literally just like, yeah, we're going to set up a shadow government so that when the grand dictator Trump, Heil Trump, takes charge, we can destroy the country more effectively and more efficiently with no one can stopping us. Like, I'm sorry. I didn't realize that I had unwittingly entered into a timeline where villainy is illegal and supervillainy is legal. Make it make sense.
We want the bureaucrats to be traumatically affected. We want, when they wake up in the morning, we want them to not want to go to work because they are increasingly viewed as the villains. We want their funding to be shut down so that the EPA can't do all of the rules against our energy industry because they have no bandwidth financially to do so. We want to put them in trauma.
Vaught also revealed the extent of the Center for Renewing America's role in whipping up right-wing panic ahead of the 2022 midterms over an increase in asylum seekers crossing at the U.S.-Mexico border. In February 2022, Arizona Attorney General Mark Brnovich released a legal opinion claiming the state was under invasion by violent cartels and could invoke war powers to deploy National Guard troops to its southern border. The legally dubious invasion theory became a potent Republican talking point. Vaught said in the 2023 speech that he and Cuccinelli, the former top Homeland Security official for Trump, personally lobbied Brnovich in the effort. We said, look, you can write your own opinion, but here's a draft opinion of what this should look like. It's the deep state. The Nazis did this too. Law for the Restoration of the Professional Civil Service, or the Gesetz zur Wiederherstellung des Berufsbeamtentums, shortened to, oh, how helpful, Berufsbeamtentums, I don't care, was enacted by the Nazi regime on April 7, 1933. This law, which followed Adolf Hitler's rise to power by 2 months and the promulgation of the Enabling Act by 2 weeks, constituted one of the earliest instances of anti-Semitism and racism in legislation in Germany. The primary objective of the law was to establish a national and professional civil service by dismissing certain groups of tenured civil servants. Individuals of non-Aryan origin, particularly those of Jewish descent, were compelled to retire, while members of the Communist Party or affiliated organizations were to be terminated from their positions. The law forbade Jews, non-Aryans, and political opponents from holding positions as teachers, professors, judges within the government. It is one-to-one. Just because they're not mentioning Jews directly, the point is to force out all bureaucratic civil servants in favor of hardcore fascist loyalists. Like, the only difference here is that thanks to the woke left and DEI, they can't say Jews and communists anymore. I mean, they do say communists. They just can't say Jews anymore. But the point, the like objective of the law is identical. It's one-to-one. It's exactly the same. Nothing short of a quiet revolution. The two speeches delivered by Vaught, taken together, offer an unvarnished look at the animating ideology and political worldview of a key figure in the MAGA movement. Over the last century, Vaught said, the U.S. has experienced nothing short of a quiet revolution and abandoned what he saw as the true meaning and force of the Constitution. What he means is that there are more non-white people here. When fascists talk about, like, America losing its way in the past century, they're talking about changes in immigration law during the what was it, Hart-Celler? Am I remembering that correctly? It's been a while since I've argued with a Nazi. The Hart-Celler law that allowed for an increase in non-white immigration. That's what they're talking about. The country today, he argued, was a post-constitutional regime, one that no longer adhered to the separation of powers among the three branches of government as laid out by the framers. He lamented the conservative right and nation writ large to become too secular and too globalist. Again, a reminder, this guy is saying the modern-day GOP is too secular and too globalist. That's how far right this guy is. This guy is also, again, probably not personally religious, as was the case with many Nazis. They'll bring up God a lot. A lot of them are, like, religious out of convenience. In reality, they belong to a kind of, like, secularized paganism, where a whole bunch of incoherent religious beliefs might, like, metaphysically justify their behavior. But this motherfucker going to church every Sunday, okay? Same with J.D. Vance, same with Fuentes, same with Trump. They worship one thing, and it's death, okay? If you read, like, any passages of Christ to this guy, he would catch on fire, okay? Vaught referred to the people detained for alleged crimes committed on January 6, 2021 as political prisoners, and defended the lawyers Jeffrey Clark and John Eastman, who have both faced criminal charges for their role in Trump's attempts to overturn the 2020 election. Federal law enforcement agencies, he added, are keeping political opponents in jail, and I think we need to be honest about that. The left, Vaught continued, has the ultimate goal of ending representative democracy altogether. Keep in mind, every accusation is a confession. The stark reality in America is that we are in the late stages of a complete Marxist takeover of this country, in which our adversaries already hold the weapons of the government apparatus, and they have aimed it at us. And they are going to continue to aim it until they no longer have to win elections. I think it would be very satisfying if we could get, like, behind the scenes audio of these people admitting that they're going after powerless people and they're the ones who have all the power and they know they're evil. But in reality, fascists are deeply pathetic, and all of their rhetoric is based on them being on the defensive all the time. I guarantee you that if you had audio from, like, Hitler's chambers all throughout the 30s, everything would have been, well, we have no choice to do this because of the Jews. Like, literally everything they do at every point. They're too cowardly. They will never admit they are the ones who are enacting the harm and the hate. They never do, not in private, not